everybody, how are you? Welcome to my channel. This is Zesta Herbal Soap Skincare and Lifestyle. So there are questions I also get about measurements. There are some things that I wish to also use to demonstrate measurement to you, like a pipette I don't have here now. So I'll just make do with the simple ones I have here. This is a beaker. It is 1000 mils, a 1000 mils beaker. This is a measuring cylinder, and the highest it can measure here is 25 mils. While this is another small beaker, and the highest it can measure is 100 mils. Today we'll be talking about measurement of liquids. Anything that is fluid, does not have much viscosity, is a liquid. It could be your oil, even though some oils could be solid at room temperature, but with little heat they will become liquid. With little heat they will become liquid, like your shea butter, like your palm oil. Your shea butter, when solid, you can measure it in grams. When in liquid form, you can measure it in liters. So apart from that, there are other things you also measure in liquid. Let's say our hydrosols, our water for making our formulation, our extracts for making our formulation, and there is a need to be able to measure them accurately after making your calculations and creating your own recipe. So some of us are already so used to measurement in spoons. Okay, this is a tablespoon. Some are so used to measurement, they'll say fetch 5 tablespoons, fetch 2 tablespoons, or they'll say 1 cup. And the cup usually they refer to is like one, they might say 1 tin milk. They'll say fetch 1 cup, fetch 2 cups. Generally, a cup is 250 mils, but it is not standard because a cup might differ. Okay, for example, a milk cup is different, a coffee cup is different. Is it not so? So the measurements differ. So there's a need to have a standardized way of giving out your measurements. So now, from this big beaker now that you can see, if you can look at it closely together with me, this is 1000 here. This 1000 represents 1000 mils. Okay, and the lowest it can measure with you getting your correct the lowest you can use this to measure to get correct measurement is 200 mils. Okay, 200 mils. That means from here to here is 200 mils. Half of it is 100 mils, but they didn't graduate to 100 mils. That's because usually in measurement, the higher your measurement, the bigger the container you should use. What I mean is, if I want to measure 50 mils, using this large beaker to measure 50 mils will not give me an accurate measurement. That means I should go as low as possible. And even this is 100 mils. This smaller one will give me more accurate measurement than this bigger one. Where is my 50 mils? My 50 mils is half of my 100 mils. Is it not so? There is a 50 mil beaker. So if you can get the 50 mil beaker, it is best to use it even more than this. This one here is 25 mils. This one is best to use this one than this one, because this one, 2 of it will give you your accurate 50 mils. So that's just how the measurement is. If you're measuring something big, using a small container like this might not favor you. It's better you use something bigger. And these measurements are easy. When they tell you fetch 100 mils, instead of carrying this, carry this. This is your 100 mils. When they ask you to measure 20 mils, instead of using this, or even instead of using this, it's better you use this, because the highest on this one is 25. This is your 20 mils here. Even though this one too here has 20 mils here. But if you don't have this one, you can use this. Do you understand? Now let's make some measurements. Assuming my recipe calls for using 300 mils of water. Where will my 300 mils be? On this beaker, all these lines that you see them indicating mean something. What it means is that from this 200 to this lower point here, it is what? It is 250. That means each graduation here is 50, 50, 50. 200 plus this 50 will give us 250. Plus another 50 will give us what? 300. So that means this longer line here means 300 mils. When you add 300 with another 50 to give you what? 350. 350 plus another 50 will give you what? 400 mils. That's how you will know that the graduation on this beaker is in what? Is in 50, 50, 50 mils up to your 1000 mil. That means if you fill it up here, it is more than 1000 mils. So your 1000 mils should stop here. And what this means is that, let's say you have already filled your beaker to 1000 mils and you want to remove only 200 mils out of your beaker. By the time you move from here to here, it is what? 200. That's what this reading on this other side means. From here to here is what? 400. Let's say you want to remove only 50 mils. That means you remove from only this 20 to this first line here. That is 250. Here is what? 300. Here is what? 400. Like that, like that. That means from this 800, when you reach here is 800. Okay? When you empty it completely, your 1000 mils is out. So for this one is when you're pouring. For this one is when you're taking out. I will demonstrate to you. But let's continue for the other ones before I continue. The same way also for this one. The smaller the measuring container, the smaller the graduation and the spaces in between. Okay? Now, for this one, each line is what is equivalent to 0.5 mil. They've written it up here for us to see. Okay? So what that means is that here, I don't know whether the light, I don't know whether you can see it or the writings are small. But in case I'm not able to see, well, most beakers always have graduation, except if you bought the one that doesn't have graduation. Some you can just see here plain, they'll just put 25 for you, meaning you should know that from here to here is 25. They didn't put all these graduations, okay? But most beakers come with graduation. Some don't even come with, especially like test tubes, they don't come with graduation, okay? But you will definitely know the volume which they can take, okay? Now you see from here to here is 5, from here to here is 10, from here to here is 15. So that means from here to here, each one is 5 mils in between them. And in between these 5 mils, there are what? Graduations. Now this is what? 1 mil, 2, sorry, this is 5, this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is it not so? That means each line, each long line here, if you can see, each long line here means what? 1 mil. And the smaller one in between the long line means what? 0.5 mil. When you add 0.5 mil plus 0.5 mil, it will give you what? 1 mil. That's why from the beginning of the beaker, they put it for us up here that each line means what? 0.5 mil. So let's say I want to fetch 6 mils on this beaker. After I reach 5, I will add what? I will add only one line. Beep. That is my 6 mils. Is it not so? If I add another one, it is 7. Like that till 10. Like that till 25. So that is how you do your measurements. On this smaller beaker, it's still the same thing too. 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. That means in between these two is how many mils? 20 mils. Half of it here will be what? 30 mils. Half of this 40 and 60 here will be what? 50 mils. So that is how you do your measurements, okay? So now, let me show you an example using the larger beaker. Let's say I want to measure 1 mil of water, maybe to make a product. This is my clean water. I don't know what I'll put for you behind it for it to show a contrast. Okay, let me use this carton that I have here. I don't know whether the contrast is showing for you well. Okay, let me use something else. Let me use this cover to create a contrast. if you're measuring solids, what do you use? You use a scale, is it not so? But for liquids, you use your measuring cylinders and beakers and pipettes, and they come in different sizes. So now let me use this as a background for you to be able to see properly. Now for this 1 ml beaker, I've not yet reached the lowest, and the lowest on it is what, 200 mils. Let's say I want to fetch 200 mils. What will I do? This is 200 mils. Let it stop right on this line that indicates it's 200 mils. But if I were measuring on something like this pipette, or even another test tube that's slimmer than this, I will not only just check the line, I will check the lower meniscus. Okay, let's assume I want to measure 15 mils here. Let me pour it to 15 mils. You will find out that when you look at it, it seems to have a concave shape. It's curved under, is it not so? So it's from the curving you measure. I don't know if you can see this. If you look at it, it looks like the line here is up, then the water has gone down a little bit as if it's curved like a small U like this. It is at the base of that U that you measure your water, not at this one that you see here. And then the way you measure it, you have to be careful to avoid error due to parallax. Put it as much as possible in front of you. Don't curve it or shake or slant your hand like this, okay? Or curve it or move your face to one side, and no, look, as much as possible, put it in front of you like this, okay? And then read from the lower meniscus. That is how you get your accurate reading, okay? So now let's continue with this one. Assuming I'm measuring 1 mil. This is 200 mils here. I'll now keep on adding. This is here is 600 mils. This is 600 mils. I'll add 800 mils, 850 mils, 900 mils, 950 mils. Remember, each line means 50. The longer one is a whole number. The smaller one is the one with the 50. Okay, then now we reach the 1000. This is our 1000 mils. Okay, now if out of this 1000 mils, we want to remove 200 mils, what does that mean? It means we want to remain how many mils? 800 mils. Now, this is what this gives us. If you look at it from the other reading here, that shows 200, it means if you move from this 1000 down here, you have how many mils? You have 800 mils. Look at the 800 by its side here. If you should go down again and you remove another 200, meaning you remove 400 mils, how many mils would you have? 600 mils. And you look at the other side, you see your 600 is there. Okay, see your 600. If you remove another 200 mils, that means you remove a total of how many mils? 800 mils. How many mils will you have? 400 mils. Okay, your 400 is there. If you remove another 200 mils, meaning you remove the total of 800 mils, how many mils will you have down? 200 mils. That is how the graduation is. It is that simple, okay? So let's say, well, let's practicalize it. We want to remove 200 mils. We'll now remove, for it to stop to 200 here. That is if you're starting your reading from here, okay? It has not reached. And always remember, your beaker has a tipped end like this, like this, like this. Okay, that is where you use to pour, okay, to avoid and reduce spillage for a neat pouring. So let's check now. We now have it at, we have from here, we have removed 200, and from here we have a total of 800. Assuming we want to remove 50, we now tip and remove small at a time. Remove small at a time. When we remove, we check. We remove, we check. And remember, I told you should be careful of error due to parallax. Always make sure it is in front of you. Okay, this one, the beaker is white, so you might not have the meniscus will not show. So you can just look at it from the level of the writing here. But for smaller containers, cylinders like this and test tubes, you will read it from the lower meniscus because the curvature will show more on them. Okay, so you can read, you can see it here. This is, we have removed 50. So that means we have removed 50 from our 800 and we now have 750. Okay, now if we want to remove more than that 50, we want to remove another, if we want to remove more than that 50 mils, we want to remove 100 mils. That means we are moving to the next lower line. Let me see. And the next lower line will give us what? 500, because remember we have already removed our 50. Sorry, the next lower line will give us what? It will give us what? 700, because remember when we remove our 50 from our 800, it gave us what? 750. We'll remove another 750 to give us what? 700. By the time we remove, let's say now let's remove 100 instead of another 50. What will it give us? It will give us our 600, and this is our 600 here. If you're counting from here up. But if you're counting from up down, you have removed how many mils? 400 mils. So that is how simple it is, okay? The same thing for your smaller container. Let's say you are fetching 2 liters. That means you fetch this one how many? You fetch 2 of this as your 2 liters. If you're fetching 500 mils, where will it stop? If you're going up this way, definitely you can't start calculation from up, because your water must fall down due to gravity. So you start your calculation from down. 200, 400 plus 50 is what? 450 plus another 50 is what? 500. Then you measure to 500. This is 450. This is 500. I don't know if you people can see, but this is 500 at here. Okay, so the same way, if you are to measure 750, you just use these readings here. You must not use a glass beaker like this. There are plastic cups that come with measurements. You can use them. But what I would like you to know is, you're measuring a larger quantity, use a larger container. If you're using a smaller quantity, use a smaller container. It won't be easy and you will not get good accurate value as such when you say you will use this 100 ml beaker, for example, to measure 1 liter. That means you have to fetch it like 10 times, okay? And you might get error in the process. The same way, this one is 25 liters, okay? If you're measuring, let's say 40 liters, it will be sweeter and easier for you with this beaker. In the same way, if you are measuring smaller measurements like your perfume, for example, that's why at times when you see me in my videos and I'm measuring my perfumes, I use this. And not only me, if you look at people that know what they are doing, they will not carry something big and then measure perfume, especially if it is a company that are accounting for everything they are doing. They'll use something like this to get accurate measurement, because everything has to do with your profit and your loss. So in some cases, if you're not measuring much, you use pipette. And your pipette has different graduations. We have micro pipettes, we have plastic pipettes. Okay, so depending on how small, if you want to measure 0.1 microliter, there are pipettes that can do that for you. Usually we call them micro pipettes. Okay, so but our pipettes usually come in 5 mils. Some come in 10 mils. Okay, but pipettes are not meant to measure much. That's why they are pipette. They pipette and then you drop. So that's how to do your measurements. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any question, you can ask me. Thank you very much.